The fourth round of the Samsung SuperSpeedway series took the drivers to the BumpDraftin SuperSpeedway for the Food City 500. As usual, 27 cars lined up on the grid, with Team Kate Upton's Doodle leading row 1 alongside Steph Sanjati Racing's G Parilla. It was clear that General Motors were trying their best to take away the Ford advantage that has plagued them over the past 3 races, and the qualifying results look promising for the automotive giants. The early laps of the race started off with a classic runaway fugitive situation, with Doodle speeding away from the rest of the pack, who were in hot pursuit of the number 5 Kellogg Chevrolet. However, Tired Iron took advantage of a better racing line and sped past Doodle to capture first place before lap 2. There was one problem for Iron, however: the remaining drivers. The rest of the pack was engaged in one big heated battle, with some drivers stuck in 4-car wide fights. Soon, Iron was overtaken by BK Glover in the number 9 Dodge, who in turn was overtaken by Swift Autosports race car in the number 20 Home Depot Chevrolet. And the B-Man took over the lead after turn 1, before losing it immediately afterwards at turn 3 to Portuguese driver Nico Driver HC in Michelin Racing's Rorozip Ford. Nico tried to defend, but at one point the race had a 4-way battle for the lead when Smurfy Bug, another team leader, came out of nowhere to capture first place. But all good things must come to a sudden end, and that end came at lap 3. Mike 458 was pushed to the upper lane by the B-Man, with obvious consequences. 4 drivers, including former leaders BK Glover and Nico Driver HC, were all forced to retire due to car damage, and of course, Mike 458 was immediately out of the race after being sent into the wall. Anyone who was driving in the high lane had very little chances of getting away, as BK Glover clearly demonstrates. What Glover also demonstrates, unfortunately, is that you should always pay attention to stranded cars, as the number 9 driver hit Mike 458's already damaged Chevrolet and further damaged his own car. Nico Driver HC's onboard footage shows his unfortunate timing, being blocked entirely by B-Man's Helveline Ford and then hitting Mike 458's car while trying to avoid further damage. Once again, the number 75 lost the chance of victory after what happened at Dragon Net. And needless to say, Mike 458 had the roughest ride of them all, hitting the wall front first, and then being hit by a collection of drivers before coming to a halt. Those who weren't forced to retire due to the crash made their way to the pits on lap 4 during the caution period, while the critically damaged cars were swiftly retired back to their garages. Ixmi was coming out of pit lane in first place, but that was a rather shocking turn of events awaiting him. Teammate and Smurf Autosports' leader Smurfy Bug did not brake in time and smashed the rear end of his own teammate in the process. In turn, the clutch of the number 0 Toyota Camry was damaged beyond repair, and ended Smurfy Bug's chances of victory. It seemed that Smurfy and Ixmi were trying to avoid the slower car of Doodle, but Smurfy pushed the accelerator at the worst possible time and punted Ixmi in the rear end of his Red Bull Toyota. One way or the other, both drivers' races were ruined, and Smurfy Autosports had a bad day to forget at BumpDraftin. The race went back to normal after a very bumpy start, but the conclusion was far from dull. 10 drivers who were still on a position where they could win the race, including former race winner Bain Hamlin 1121, who won the opening round in Daytona. But he was obviously not alone, as Michelin, D Cybertron, Tired Iron, Red Dragon, Audi Man 2011, PCR Raikkonen, Race Car, and Doodle all wanted the victory for their own sake. G Parilla, the second place holder at the start, was also involved in the battle for first place, waiting in the wings for the perfect opportunity. Michelin was leading before lap 39, but then decided to enter the pits, in a shocking decision that was mimicked by Raikkonen, Dragon, Padilla, and Iron. Needless to say, the five drivers had taken themselves out of the battle for first place, leaving it in the hands of the Cybertron and the remaining drivers. On lap 39, Bane and Cybertron were battling against one another. Audi men quickly gained ground and joined both drivers after a speedy run through the back straights. However, more shocking pit lane strategies made their move, with Audi men and the other two drivers who were in the first place battle entering the pits before the last lap. It all came down to two drivers, Hamlin 1121 and D Cybertron, Ford versus Pontiac. Payne had the speed in his Ford, but the back markers foiled his chances of winning his second race. When the dust settled, it was the dead GM brand's victory, with D Cybertron coming out on top of the Food City 500 with his number 32 Tide Pontiac. After 4 races, D Cybertron is the leader of the Samsung SuperSpeedway series, moving up 6 places in the standings after his victory at BumpDraftin. Despite his rather idiotic pit strategy, Michelin has moved up 7 places, sitting in second place with 146 points, followed then by Racecar, who moved up 5 positions. The greatest drop goes to Niku Driver HC, who lost 8 places after his unlucky crash at BumpDraftin.